right, guys, we'll get rolling. I'm sure any questions you guys have, certainly from Saturday, but, really good meeting yesterday with our football team. I think I talked a lot about the game on Saturday. I still think great improvement from where we were to where we are right now, and that part I'm excited about. Got a great challenge this week. I would say this from the Kansas perspective, so impressed with Coach Leipold. Obviously, knowing him, knowing what he's about, what he stands for, you can tell it's a team that certainly believes, even in the little details and areas that vastly improved. It's really impressive. So I think great challenge, one of the best athletes that we'll play against in the Big 12 at quarterback for Kansas. So a great challenge for our football team and our program on Saturday. So obviously with that said, and whoever wants to start, Randy, go ahead.
A couple of the players compared after the game Saturday, compared the start in 2021, compared what could happen, compared it to the 2019 season, and how you guys rallied during that season. Is that a fair comparison, justified? What are your thoughts on that comparison?
Well, I would compare every season we've started here, other than 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, have all been the same. So the choice is, do we... For sure, but same start, right? I mean, literally, you're 2-2, 3-2, 4-2. It's all the same. And so, I think for us, do you get better? Do you continue to improve? Does your leadership stay the course? Do you put yourself in a position to be where you want to be? They're not any different. And so, the telltale sign, it's like I said on Saturday, we'll see who we are and what we become at the end of the football season. I think that's how it'll always be here. Not to say those records, to me, it doesn't matter what your record is at this point. It matters who you are in October, November, and December, because I think that's what the telltale sign of what your football team's about.
One more question in that vein. The players are essentially the same. Coaches are essentially the same. Dave Andrews is the wild card difference. What can he bring? What can he mean for the rest of this season, for example?
Yeah, I think I think holistically, he was also the strength coach last year as well, and I think you saw our team vastly improve, and I think those are things that we build our model and really have spent a lot of time even bringing Dave in. It was the process of how do we get better as the season goes? How do we be our best when our best is needed? And so, I think for a lot of it, we'll continue to see if we're on the right track. I feel really confident about we're as healthy as we've been. So that part's really positive. And can we continue to stay available and stay healthy, which is partially, what Dave's responsibility has really been is allowing that to happen and give us the best chance. And they've done a phenomenal job of that for us.
You've been pretty candid about your guys' self-evaluation in off seasons.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what did that self-evaluation look like this offseason, specifically about special teams?
Yeah, I think for us, it was, first of all, starting with the who, right, of who are our specialists. And, I think the vast improvement was, man, we need to be able to kick the ball off, right? And that was something that was a severe disadvantage for our football team a year ago. And, I would say, boy, even Saturday, 6 of 8 are touchbacks in the football game. I know we have the one play that is the game changer, and that, man, you hate for that to happen. Yet you have 3 guys that, on that play, it should be tackled at the 22-yard line. And, even though it's not a touchback, it's still a great kick with 4-2 hang time, exactly what you would ask our kicker to do. And, we've got the opportunity to make the play, and some of our veteran players who are RA players on those unit don't make the play. And so when you don't do that or do your job so the other people can make the play, then something bad can happen, especially on special teams. It takes one guy not to do their job, and when you have 2, that makes it tough. And so, I really think from our end, we felt really good about where we were on special teams, just knowing that there were going to be some growing pains early with who's going to be the punt returner, who's going to be the kick returner. You lost some of those really good pieces, but other pieces around were back. And then the same thing with the punter piece. You're talking about a brand new punter in there, and Joe Rivera did such a great job for the last 2 years of punting, and where his placement was to what his hang time was. It really allowed our coverage to be good. But, those are things that have been inefficient so far this season, and that's just not one person, that's a collective area. So, I think those are things we got to continue to hammer away at. But I think the starting point for us is, man, there's a lot of turnover at who was handling the main parts of all those duties. One area we felt great about with Andrew coming in. The other area we knew, man, we're going to have to get through the early part of the season to see who's the best answers are at some of those spots for our team.
You mentioned the 6 of 8 touchbacks. Did Andrew just not get those two, or were they supposed to? I think they were back-to-back. So were they supposed to be short of the end zone, or he just didn't connect all the way?
Yeah, I think he didn't connect all the way, and they're bringing it out. I think the one he brings out maybe 1 yard deep in the end zone. So, they're good returner. We knew he's going to be aggressive. That's not on our kicker by any stretch of imagination. That's on, he had elite hang time on it and really have multiple opportunities to make the play. And really that's more on the coverage unit than it is the kicker.
My last one on this, the punt unit has been inconsistent, and obviously was Saturday. What is there any changes there, or what do you want to see?
Yeah, well, I think you have to look at everything, and I do think at that piece of it is with, in terms of punting the football, it's got to start with that. I think sometimes you look at the coverage piece of it, but man, it's hang time, it's ball placement, and we've got some of our best players on our football team on the coverage unit. So I think from the reality of that aspect of it, we have to do a great job in terms of having consistency from the snap to the punt, and then continue to do a great job with our coverage aspect of it. But that's one of those units that's tough, because you got to protect first and then you got to cover, and it all starts with the operation of the punter. So I think just finding the consistency from ball location and hang time will really help that unit really perform at a high rate. And when we've done that, we've performed at a really high rate.
And Uwazurike hasn't always been a huge stat producer in years past. This season he seems to, he has 3 sacks, I think. He has 15 tackles. He seems to be getting more statistical production. How difficult is that as a player to do, being both defensive end and defensive tackle?
Yeah, and I would almost spin it. I think that's why you're seeing so much production from him, because I think he's got the ability to move around. He's not always at the same place. I think for the last 3 years, he was always sitting at that boundary end. Now you see him, he's a 3 technique to the boundary. He's the boundary end. Maybe he's at nose. He's the field 3 technique. We're moving any all around. And I really think for him, that's a huge benefit, because I think he's showing his flexibility, but it also allows us to create some matchups defensively that maybe at times can be in our favor. And so, I just think I'm really proud of him, because he's taking advantage of those opportunities. He's made the plays in the moment, every opportunity he's gotten the first 4 games of the season. And you're right, he hasn't been a guy that's always had a ton of production in terms of, looking at the stat sheet. What he's meant to our defense, I think we all would know is, man, he's been a critical piece of it. But it's awesome for him to not only be a critical piece of it, be where he's supposed to be, but now being in a place where he can have a huge impact on the football game, and it's been awesome to see.
A guy his size at 6'6", 230, 220, whatever he's listed at, how rare is it that he's able to be that flexible? Most defensive ends, they're kind of Will McDonald size,
Right.
so...
Yeah, I think that's what makes any a really unique player, and I think that's what really makes the evolution of him so unique. And that size is really right now around 335. And you're talking about a guy who has changed his body from where he was a year ago to where he is today. You're talking a guy that's got elite length, and you're also talking about a guy that I think has really added tools in his tool belt, and the ability to pass rush, the ability to, pass rush over a guard, pass rush over a nose, and then certainly at times be able to pass rush out at the tackle position. So, a lot of credit goes to him to be able to do it at that size. But, he's worked really hard, and I think you're also talking about a guy that's built himself up, came in at 350 and we had to trim him down. He's really kind of started at 280, and now he's this 335-pound man that's been a huge impact on this team.
In a similar vein, maybe a guy that's been huge to your offense but doesn't always put up numbers, big numbers, is Chase.
Yeah.
And he goes for almost 100 yards in that game. What's the value as you're seeking more consistency on offense? When you got him as also a security type blanket to go with Charlie, so that
Sure.
everything else.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we've talked about is it's my responsibility and our responsibility as coaches, and then our players' responsibility. Our A players have to get A's. And I think we've always identified Chase Allen as an A player. And if you look at just the offensive grades in the first 4 weeks positionally, what's been so impressive is, man, Chase Allen has had an elite start to the season. You know, Chase has played outstanding. He's blocked as good as he's ever blocked in his career, which I do think is a product of him being the most healthy he's ever been in terms of an all season. He had a full all season. He had a great January, February, March, April, May, June. Man, he didn't get dinged up in July and August, and a guy that's been healthy. So I think health has played a huge part of him playing to really what that A status looks like. But, you know, man, I mean, for that guy to grade out, I think well over 90% in every game so far this season, and now to start to get a little bit of, you know, same thing, the production piece of it. Well, you got to be on the field and you got to be available to get some of that production. But I think he's as trusted as any of our players in our program. And, you know, Chase is off to a great start. And to be honest with you, I think has really been the guy that's got the offense going over the last couple of weeks. You know, I think the offense is really starting to rise fast, and I think a lot of credit goes to his leadership and certainly what he's been able to do and bring to the table for that group.
You mentioned your connection with Coach Leipold. What kind of relationship do you guys have previously? I mean, what do you know about him, even from the, obviously you guys have a lot of similarities with the D3 connections.
Yeah, you know, I think from my end of it, it's not like, you know, it's not like we're best friends, but I would also say, you know, I think there's a ton of respect between myself and him. You know, we were in the MAC together. He was just coming in as we were leaving. I think one of the things about Coach Leipold, you know, being at Wisconsin Whitewater, being in Mount Union, you know, there was obviously a big rivalry there, but just watching how he built a program, sustained really the program at Whitewater, to go to Buffalo to be able to do that. And I will tell you guys, he's going to do a tremendous job at Kansas. And, you know, it was a great hire. He's a guy that gets it, understands what he's looking for. And you can already see, watching their team play, they've gotten better every week. They've got a plan, and they're following that plan. And, you know, I would say from my end, you know, elite respect, because you're talking about a guy that's worked his way up from the ground up. I think a lot of his staff has been with him since Whitewater. And, you know, those guys get it. And their kids play really hard. You can tell they believe in him already, and you know, he's going to do a great job. But for me, it's more of a respect factor, and I think an acquaintance than it is, man, just this best friendship. But I think our paths are very similar, and I think we got a lot of the same value system.
What's that Whitewater and Mount Union rivalry like?
Oh yeah, it's unique. Absolutely, yeah, it's unique. So we'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Come on, start some controversy. I forgot what I was going to ask now. Zach Peterson.
Yeah.
It looks like he's played a lot. He's playing a lot of snaps,
Cool.
especially for a guy playing on the defensive line, being whatever he is. Yeah, just talk about him for a moment.
Randy, and I think the best way to put Zach Peterson is, we go to the end of that game, right? And I would say Zach, equal to what Chase Allen is doing on offense, Zach Peterson has been the pillar of consistency in our program. And you love to see those guys that are the pillar of consistency get to this point in their career and have dominant aspects of who they are. And I think Zach is doing that. And, you know, I've always said Zach's always been there for us in the biggest moments. Well, you know, unfortunately, you would have loved to win the game because Zach would have been the hero, right? And you look at the last drive, he's on the punt team, okay? The ball gets loose. Man, not a great punt. Gets loose out the back gate. Zach runs it down, stops it. You know, him and Tucker Robertson make the play at about the 11-yard line. The next three plays, we can't let him score. Zach's the guy who makes all three plays, all three tackles. Tackle 1, -2. Tackle 2, -1. And then the last play, they try to run a jet sweep into the boundary. Man, makes another play. And to me, I think it's the epitome of what this kid's about. He cut him open. It's all about Iowa State. It's all about team, and he's going to strain to be the best version of himself he can be. I mean, he's running down on our kickoff. It's 97 degrees. He runs down on every kickoff on Saturday, makes a play. He's on our punt team, and he plays 60 snaps on defense. I just don't know if there's anybody more that's giving more of himself to our team and the betterment of our team, and then producing at such a high rate than what Zach is. And so a lot of credit to him and what he's doing for us.
Not that my mantra today is Dave Andrews, but is Zach a product of Dave Andrews?
Yeah, I don't know if I would say that. I would say Zach's a product of his family, you know, and I say that because man, 2 years ago, Zach Peterson, Jaquan goes down, and who steps in and plays incredible? Zach Peterson, right? You know, I'll never forget the hit he has on C.D. Lamb. We're down in the game in Oklahoma. It's late. Man, he has the hit, causes he causes the fumble. We get it. Same thing. Gives us every opportunity to go down and win the football game. He would have been the hero that night had we won the football game. We didn't. But, you know, Zach's one of those guys that, you know, who his mom and dad are, what his family's about. You know, now we got Joey here, and, you know, what's fun is you got Joey and Zach running down on the same kickoff team side by side right now, and, you know, it's pretty impressive because Joey's got those same qualities and traits that you saw from Zach. He's fearless. He knows exactly what his job's supposed to be, and it's what's allowed a freshman to help our football team early on in his career. So, you know, I give so much credit to the Peterson family believing in us, obviously his father being a great former player here, but, you know, I think they had to believe in us to send their sons here, and we really appreciate that.
Matt, you mentioned earlier in the season, Brees was a little dinged up. It feels like, and maybe we only get so much from watching a TV broadcast, but even his body language the last couple of weeks has really improved, it seems. How much do you feel like he's kind of made some strides in these past couple of weeks here?
Yeah, I think it's night and day. You know, I think we know the standard of excellence just because you guys cover us, so you've seen Brees play. We've coached him and been a part of Brees's life, so we know what he has the ability to be and capability to be. And when he's at his best, boy, it's hard to find a better player in terms of the running back position, in terms of what Brees Hall brings to a team. And, you know, I just think for Brees, you know, part of that was, man, getting going. And I think a little bit of that was hindered because the last week and a half of fall camp, you know, as a guy that's dinged up, and I think anybody that's like that, like I would tell you is, man, it's reps and being in a groove and kind of playing yourself back into shape a little bit is kind of really what it was. And so, you know, I'm really proud of where Brees is right now. You know, when Brees plays well, we seem to have great flow in our offense. And, you know, Brees is playing at a really high clip and over the last 2 games, and we'll need him to continue to do that. But I would also say the guys around him are playing really well too. You know, I thought that was as good of an offensive performance from our offensive line versus what I felt like going into the game and still feel like is one of the best defenses we'll face. You know, a guy that's better in defense and really physical, and I thought, you know, we were at least able to match their physicality within the football game. And, you know, again, I think anytime you run the ball with success, it's not just one person, but it sure helps to have a guy like Brees Hall doing that for us.
Yeah, one other thing for me, you're not the type of guy that, at least to me, strikes me as a reset kind of guy. You just kind of set all the seasons the same, you kind of move forward. But does there ever come a point where you feel like you could use, even in some aspects, maybe not the whole team, but just kind of a hard reset or use a game in that kind of way?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the best reset we got, to be honest with you, was getting on the road. And you know, I think going to UNLV was really good for our team to kind of get out. You know, it's been a really unique start to the season in terms of what it is. You know, you got 2 big rivalry games early on. You got to go play on the West Coast. You go play a huge conference game. But, man, that's college football. Like, this is it. It all is what it is. And to me, you know, I think one of the great things is every game teaches us something about ourselves. Where are we? Where are we going? Whether we won the game or lost the game. And you guys, that's I get it, right? Like, but no matter where we were, there were going to be some really good things that would have come out of that game, and there were going to be some things we needed to work on. And the telltale sign with 18 to 22-year-olds is, man, how do we just get this mentality to get better one day at a time? How do we, it's hard to say this, but how do we're obviously result aware. We know what we want to get from a result standpoint, but how do we stick to our process? And I think the hardest thing that you ask 18 to 22-year-olds today, especially in team sport, is how do we stick to our purpose? Man, what are we about? What are we defined as? What's our purpose of what we're trying to do and get accomplished? And if it's just around results, you're going to get disappointed 9 out of 10 times and you'll quit the process. If it's about who you are, who we're trying to be, and where we're trying to be at the end of this thing, then you'll stay the course and we'll navigate through really hard times and have the ability to learn from it, put our ego aside, coaches and players. Where do we got to be better? Man, there's a lot of areas Coach Campbell's got to be better. If we're not better on the punt team, man, it's on me. If our A players need to play better, man, I got to find a better practice schedule to help our A players play better football. And I think we all have to be able to take a step back each Sunday, be accountable to what's going on, win or loss, and then do a great job of filling in those gaps so we can improve from week 1 to week 2 to week 2 to week 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, all the way through the entirety of the season. And I do think that's something that we've been able to do a really good job of here. Now, can we continue to do that? I think that time will tell, and that's going to be a great challenge for this team.
Outside of X, the wide receivers, not a ton of production or targets. Does that matter? Because obviously the guys that are getting the targets and touches, I think, are probably your best players, everyone would say.
Players, formations, plays, right? I mean, you've heard me talk for a long time, and, and that doesn't mean there's not more players out there. I just think that, boy, we would be silly if our starting point for offense and defensive football and really in special teams, who are your players, what formations do you get in, what plays do you run? So, I think it's going to be exciting to see who continues to emerge at the receiver position. We feel like there's some really talented guys there, and, it's consistency. It's getting some of those guys, Sean Shaw, back to full strength. It's continuing to evolve young players in our program, Jalen Knoll, and then continue to see the consistency of some of the guys that have been there, man, Easy Anderson, and obviously Joe Skates, and some of those guys continue to evolve into what they've got the ability to become. But, right now when there's one football and you got a lot of really good football players, you got to start with, man, how do we get our players the football to give us the best chance to win the game?
You were talking about the offensive line a little bit ago. What's Trevor's return meant for that group?
Yeah, I think really positive because, much like Zach Peterson, much like Chase Allen, there's a sincere, it's about the team with Trevor. And I think Trevor brings not only an energy to our group, because he does, but he also brings a sincere care factor in everything he does. And so, I think his consistency, even through 4 football games, it's been huge to have back. And yet I still think at times we're searching, because there are some guys, Jared Hufford, who proved that he's a really good football player for this football team. And, you're starting to get some other guys. It's like, man, how do we continue to get those other guys involved too? But, man, what Trevor's done for our team, it's been really fun to watch. And, for him, I couldn't be happier that he's back healthy and playing really well for us.
What becomes of Gary Vaughn now that Orion's back?
Well, I think, you'll see probably a little bit more of a split, in terms of what happens as Orion, yes, he's back. Is he back to 100%? I think hopefully this week another step closer to 100%. He wasn't there all the way last week. That's why we kind of tried to limit his reps to what he could do for us. But, I think we continue to find ways to use Gary Vaughn in a positive way. Can he continue to help us at Mike? Yes. Man, can he maybe spell some of those other linebackers at times throughout the football game? Yes. And then obviously continuing to use him. One area that probably has hurt us is Gary Vaughn, having to take so much reps on defense, is we've had to cut down his special teams reps, and I think that was probably a big loss for us on a couple units on Saturday, where, a guy like Gary, in terms of our football team and the veteranness that he brings to those units, not having a guy like that can be a big loss for us. So, getting him back on some of those units as well, if we're able to with his playing time.
It's getting to the time of year where with true freshmen you might have to weigh the possibility of redshirting versus playing for the full season. I mean, especially with, I guess specifically, the only one that's probably right on the line is Eli. How do you weigh that, especially if he's just, at kick return or something like that,
Sure.
and making a decision like that?
Yeah, like you said, I think it's so early on that, but we're getting closer to that time to say, man, where are we going with this thing? And, I do think we can at least get through next week, which will be really good, to be able to make the best decision for all those players, and it's certainly, I've always said this, it comes down to the player, number one. What's the benefit to our team immediately, and certainly what's in the best interest for the player. And, we really have to make the best decision for the player first and then the team second in that situation. But usually those are conversations that are had between myself, the player, and sometimes the player's family to make the best